Hi, I'm Kelly. A couple of weeks ago, I had my first gym assessment. I wanted to share the results that came back, and some were encouraging and some were, well, it leads me to know where I need to focus a little bit of work on. So, to give you a bit of background, I am a corporate worker. I'm quite desk bound. I've not traditionally been someone who exercises much at all. 7 years ago, I started to do bushwalking. Swimming has come into the picture, but it was a year ago that I started to do resistance training, getting in the gym and doing weight. I wish I'd done a comparison when I started to do the weights because the weights have actually made a big difference. But let's go and have a look at the assessment. I think you'll find it interesting. See here that this is very flattering. It's not lovely at all. They give you this scan of your body that you just think, wow, that's not great. So he's kind of standing on a machine holding it, and it sort of spins around and does this scan. So it's able to tell me some statistics about my body. So it's not as informative as, say, a DEXA scan. A DEXA scan can tell you more about where your fat is actually sitting in your body and can give you some bone density measurements. So then we get down to this wellness matrix thing that they've got, and they've given me a body shape rating of 64. It's like, oh, okay, is that good? How do we know? But it actually has this little chart down here, and it tells me that I'm sort of in between average and ideal. I don't really know what to take of that. I just asked ChatGPT as I make a joke, my best friend, what do we take from this body shape rating? And he said, really, doesn't mean much at all. So let's sort of move to a waist circumference here, and we've got a waist to hip ratio, and this is a little bit more informative. So my waist to hip ratio comes at 0.83. So they tend to say this is an indicator of cardiovascular health and overall health. Now this puts me actually at moderate risk. So a low risk sits at 0.8. So I'm a little bit above. It indicates that I have more weight around my abdomen that would be considered optimal. So when you have weight around your abdomen, what that's tending to say is you've got more visceral fat. And so there's two types of fat. We've got visceral fat that sits over inside more, over around your organ, and that's actually quite unhealthy. And then we have adipose fat that sort of sits on the outer layer of our body. I would imagine that I have a fair bit of both. So I'm going to take that waist to hip statistic a little bit over the body shape that tells me I'm average to ideal. Okay, then they have this posture graph. I'm really not going to read too much in it. I actually have scoliosis, so I have a curvature of spine. I wore a back brace when I was young. You know, it's not severe, but it was enough that warranted a brace. Now, that brace was never going to fix it. It was just stopping it from getting worse. So I obviously want to keep my bone strong because, you know, I've already got a curvature, and anything that's weakening or brittle is going to exacerbate that. Now, I need the muscles to hold my posture up. So I'm not going to read too much into this. My body is not the same on either side. Most people aren't, but mine's probably a little bit more exacerbated than others. They gave me a balance sheet as well here where I'm leaning towards. Again, that's not a surprise. The measurements in itself right now are not that helpful until I have my next scan and I can compare. What they did look at is differences between my right side and my left side. For example, you can see with my bicep, my left bicep and right bicep, there's actually a 1 centimeter difference. I was like, well, is this a problem? And they said, no, it's not. But if it's tending towards 2, then you'd want to sort of get them more even. Obviously, probably tennis players have a bigger bicep on one side than the other. So we'll compare these figures next time I go back for my next scan. Now, I think this is probably kind of interesting, this bit, and it's really about this body composition section here. So my weight is 0.4. Now, I don't weigh myself. I haven't weighed myself for well over a year and a half. I just didn't find it helpful. And once I started going to the gym building muscle, I knew that that was going to skew it anyway because muscle weighs more than fat. So I wanted to go on what do I feel like and how do my clothes feel? So when we look here, it says that my body fat percentage is 33.51. To me, that sounded horrible. That sounded like a lot. But apparently this puts me a little bit above the average. But let's just go average. So I'm like, okay. So again, I asked ChatGPT, what do you think for women over 50 plus to have 33.51% fat? Now, lean and fit actually is 23 to 30. And so 30 to 36 is average. So there's room for improvement, but that's okay. It's not horrendous. Now I can tell you that if I'd done this a couple of years ago, this wouldn't have looked like this at all, especially the lean mass here. So the fat mass in total is 22.3 kilograms, and my lean mass, which is basically anything that's not fat, so it's my muscle, my bone, my organs, and then also water. There's something that they used to measure. Well, they still do actually. It's BMI, but it's a little bit misleading. It's done on your weight and how tall you are. Now, if you go to the gym and you are a bodybuilder, for example, you have no fat, but you're heavy because you have so much muscle, you will actually come out from BMI as obese. And then they're obviously not. Right? So that is a misleading one. So what another one to do is the lean mass index, LMI, and it's using calculations on your lean mass and your height. Okay, so when we calculated my lean mass of the 44.1 and my height, I'm quite short, I'm 157 centimeters, I come in at 17.9. So for women, under 15 is low muscle. Now you want a high count now. Under 15 is low muscle. Between 15 and 17 is average. And 17 to 19 is good to strong. And 19 plus is you're very muscular. So mine is 17.9. So this puts me good and strong. So this is really encouraging. Okay, so I have been actively trying to build my muscle. So then they gave me a wellness matrix here. You'll see here that my basal metabolic rate is 1,209. And so basically this is, what does my body need to live if I was not doing anything, or if I was lying in bed? Now, that didn't actually sound like much to me at all. And I thought, that's terrible. That's not much food at all. But when you're moving through the day or you're exercising, if I'm doing light exercising, I'm going to use about 1,800 per day. Now, if I'm starting to do intense exercise in that day, it's going to up. So maybe around the 2,000. So I did ask ChatGPT again, what does 1,209 look like for me? And it said it's actually normal. This is actually quite fine. I'm 66 kilograms, I'm short, and I'm a female over 55. This is normal. It's not adversely under. What it does is it gives you a little bit of insight into, if you want to lose some weight, not lose muscle, then you should only go under a little bit from what your activity load would be. So remember, mine's about 1,800, just a little bit less than that. I wouldn't want to go too low because then you're going to start eating your muscle. So if I wanted to increase my metabolism, I've got to put more muscle on. And if I want to put more muscle on, I've actually got to eat a little bit more food and strength training. So this is a little bit out of sequence, but I just want to share that they did a cardio test as well. They did it after the scan. So the cardio test was on a bike. It was probably in sort of zone, well, I was still chatting away. I was still chatting, so maybe zone 2. The assessment came back that I was of average cardio, which, average is average, I suppose. It's not like he was assessing sample against samples of women of 55. So I'm just going to take that as that's okay. So I have a DEXA scan booked in about 3 weeks, and I'm really interested to see that. I'm going to be quite specific about where my fat is, how much is visceral, how much adipose. It's also going to give me a breakdown of my bone density. This is one of the main reasons I'm doing it. I want to know where I'm sitting. The other thing the DEXA scan will be able to tell me is about my muscle, where it's sitting, because I don't really know. So I'm really excited about having that assessment, and I'll share that with you. In about another 2 months, I'll do another gym assessment. I'm really interested to see where the body measurements are and what comes from that. Hopefully this encourages you to get down and do one of those gym assessments. I wish I'd done it earlier. I was a bit, I want to wait till I'm a bit stronger, but I wish I'd done that, so then I'd had it Paris and see the improvement over that time. Anyway, look forward to seeing you again, and thank you.